Welcome to the Bluff. I'm the guy in the orange suit. The Bluff is that HubSpot is up and to the right more so than ever. I'm with Brendan Tollison, CEO of RP, where I work. Brendan, how are you?
Orange suit, I'm doing great. It is an honor to be in a podcast with you.
I've never seen so many letters for your title and headline. Nice job. I assume the more letters, the better.
It's a nice word puzzle for the audience.
So this is a episode 1 of a podcast. What does bluff mean? Why are we doing it like this? I'd like for you to speak into that as CEO.
Sure, the bluff is I can't take credit for it. It's something that Matt Bolian, the other co-founder, and really I should actually credit the military, not Matt Bolian. That would be a little bit too much of a compliment. Bluff, bottom line up front. The intent of this podcast is really to give a summary of some topics that we think are relevant and meaningful for the ecosystem as we like to build in the open from an RP perspective, and just give some of our thoughts. And so the bluff has been synonymous with RP from a culture perspective. And so it made sense to use the bluff as the core theme or concept for the podcast.
That was the longest bluff ever. And yes, we don't want Matt Bolian's head getting any bigger than it already is.
I thought you would try to use the blob, Rob, since that is your favorite.
I don't know what you're talking
tell
about.
our audience what the blob is.
The blob is what I typically do when I try to bluff, which is ramble a little bit, and then I get my thoughts together by the end. And so blob is bottom line on bottom. It is TLDR of bluff. So
it's kind of like the in summary or in conclusion of the bluff.
In conclusion of the bluff, yes, that blob was cooler, funnier, and hated by nearly every RPer just because it's ridiculous.
Did you like the blob at summer camp, or did you avoid the blob?
I was always too big for the blob. If I had landed on the blob by myself, I would have sent children skyrocketing into another dimension. So I wasn't allowed on the blob.
I'd be terrified if I was on the end of the blob and I saw Rob Jones on top. That was like my biggest fear. So I avoided the blob.
So with this podcast, it's intended to be shorter, not an hour and a half, 2-hour discussion. That's intentional. You're an executive, so maybe I'm wrong in assuming this, but you could confirm part of the reason for RP formatting in the bluff is to say what's needed up front, almost executive summary style. So it should fit that the podcast is more concise and to the point. Is that how you're thinking about it?
Yeah, I have not helped with all my interruptions to the podcast so far, but yes, I think how people learn, how they want to experience information, whether albeit Twitter or it's very much a scan type of mentality. And so let's create something that's more consumable and something that's actionable, and give the readers, or not the readers in this instance, the listeners.
Readers.
Yeah, maybe we'll get readers. I don't know if we're going to transcribe this, but the listeners, just a high level overview of what we believe to be important or what's going on.
So with that, yes, bluff means bottom line up front. We've taken it and broken it down into a different acronym for how we're going to approach the show with 4 topics. B is big headlines. And so we'll start there. The bluff or the big headline is Alphabet is still, has renewed, or they're furthering their interest to purchase HubSpot. They're sitting on a $110 billion cash pile, which must be nice. Maybe they're getting bored. What's the bluff with that?
The bluff is, I think it's still a lot of clickbait. However, I think there is a lot of, do you want to know, like, why do I think Alphabet or Google, depending on if you're familiar with either of those names, why they'd be interested, or what do I think about the news?
I want you to bluff both. Is it real? Is it not? And then if it should happen, if this should occur, what's the bluff? Is it a good thing? How should I feel about this news, I guess, is what I would hope to get your perspective on.
I think it would not surprise me if conversations are happening. I think Brian and Dharmesh, who are the co-founders of HubSpot, have demonstrated a desire to build organically. Yes, there have been a few acquisitions, but I do think there is an element where they like to control both the culture and the direction of the business. So I think the barrier for some type of acquisition would be very high. Now, does it make sense for HubSpot? Yes. What I mean by that is it expands. So there's an all-in podcast I talked about a lot with the team, but there's a gentleman that runs the show who used to work at Google. One of the things he talked about is they've always had the CRM on their roadmap, and so I think it's a way to protect their core revenue stream, which is their ads. And so if you can extend that life cycle of the customer to provide more visibility, then it makes sense. And there's also just the accretive nature of, hey, if you have 1 million customers that are using ads and only 5% buy HubSpot, then that's significant revenue. So I think it does make sense for Google. Now, where it stacks in their priorities of things like AI, for example, I can't answer that. I'm not smart enough to answer that, but I can see conceptually why it makes sense. And then to your last question, how should I feel about it? Look, change is change, and everyone's going to experience it. But I don't think I don't. There would be no changes in my mind for a long period of time in the event that something did happen. That's a lot of a lot of integration that would have to occur. But I think it'd be business as usual for an extended period of time.
That's super helpful. The only follow-up to that was your point to it makes a lot of sense from a business perspective and utilizing if HubSpot, let's say, beat Google to the CRM race, which they have beaten just about everybody else in the last 4 years as far as product updates. That makes sense, but the culture part of that was odd. Like Dharmesh and Brian have done a good job of. I think they wrote a culture book for HubSpot that's solved for the customer. I know UGJ is kind of one of their monikers. So if there is a negative effect on culture, you're saying it would be downstream 5-10 years if anything were to occur.
Well, that's a good point. I was thinking more about how does it impact like the partner ecosystem and ultimately the end user. Now, how it impacts an employee, yeah, that's probably different. And I think there's some similarities, at least from what I can see objectively, between how Google runs their business and how HubSpot runs their business. It's just I think there's an element of control when you are the founder, co-founder, or have significant equity, and so you can make those decisions, and you lose that in an acquisition. And so I think that's the risk. And from a HubSpot perspective or HubSpotter perspective, there'll be a lot of unknowns that they will have to acclimate into a new environment. So yes, I don't know what the answer is in that regard.
I'll have one more thing and we'll head on to the next. These are intended to be 2 or 3 minute kind of subsections, but last follow-up point, as far as the technology is concerned, and HubSpot has made it pretty clear in public that they're moving, their desire is to move up market with larger deals, larger companies, enterprise. Do you think that the interest of Google, again, were this to happen, would significantly expedite their ability to do so?
I think where it gets interesting is, I think it's a signal to the Microsofts of the world, to the Salesforces of the world, where I think what gets interesting is the G Suite element of thinking about from a prospecting perspective, integrating the apps to allow them to go up market into industries where they may have struggled to go up market, where Salesforce has a stronghold. So think about like B2B SaaS or technology, where G Suite is fairly prevalent. Now, would it impact like manufacturing and healthcare distribution, where a Dynamics, which is Microsoft's product, or even Salesforce, like getting into life sciences? Maybe not, but I think it's more industry specific based off of where the strength of G Suite and some of the other tools lie.
Yeah, I have no qualms with that explanation at all. I too am too dumb to understand all the ramifications, but you make a lot of sense. Let's move on. L, so Bluff, bottom line up front. The L in this acronym for topics is LinkedIn. So we want to use one of the topics to source questions, comments, anything from the community. We have one today. Shout out to HubSearch and Jason Azokar. Jason.
Yeah, I've never asked Jason how to pronounce his last name. This is a good prompt to confirm.
Yeah, I think there's the Spanish word for sugar is somewhere close to his name, Azukar. Anyway, Jason from HubSearch had a post. The bluff of this post is something's going on in the HubSpot ecosystem where partners are either looking to be acquired or looking to acquire other partners. What's the bluff on that?
HubSpot is what Salesforce was 8 to 10 years ago, and so it's the next ecosystem where private equity sees opportunity. I think that's the bluff. Look, if you look at HubSpot, they're at 2.5 roughly AR billion, that is. And if you look at their growth rate, they're in the 20s to 30s. So just in terms of pure performance, both on the revenue growth and profitability. Like they have solved for efficiency, which is the name of the game right now. And if you think about customer count, they're over 200,000. So you're talking about adding 50,000 customers year over year. That's a lot of growth. And you have, so for PEs looking at, hey, if there's a ecosystem being built around this platform, then that represents opportunity for us to get in and grow with that ecosystem. So I think that's what's prompting private equity. We can go into more details, I'm sure, with the question, but that's the bluff to start.
You don't have any questions of me from that? I mean, I've got the inside track over here. I can tell you all you need to know.
What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. What I think is that VCs and PEs want to, in my experience, standardize. Like they want reporting and they want processes standardized across the companies in their portfolio that they manage or want to invest in. And so the 7,000 plus partners in the ecosystem, there are elite tier people that I think this question may be directed towards, where they've kind of figured out how over the course of years, or RP, for example, has been 3.5, 4 years of figuring out process and playbooks and a way to standardize things. And so it is the consolidation of bigger partners. And this question about acquisition, does that point towards standardization so that VCPEs can look a little more seriously at investing with HubSpot?
I think there's that element of like how to serve their portfolios, but I think that what's driving, look, private equity wants to get in because they see HubSpot's growth and therefore partners are going to grow with them. And HubSpot's very reliant on partners to provide the services associated with driving adoption, whether it's implementation or ongoing adoption. And so they want to get in on that. And so look, I get pinged from a PE probably every single day saying, hey, are you interested? And so I think if you're an elite partner of HubSpot, here, just some take it or leave it, but usually you need to be about 10 million in revenue for private equity to even be interested. And I think for a lot of private equity folks, they're saying, hey, I want to find a partner that I can build a platform with that can ultimately serve a company from lead to cash. So I think that's ultimately what they're looking to create. And we can go to a little more details, but that's what's driving PE.
The question for me more specifically was about if, let's just say VCPE Incorporated, whatever, a VCP has 10, 20 portfolio or companies in their portfolio, and they're seeing this opportunity, they wouldn't reach out to 10 or 20 different partners to help onboard or implement HubSpot or run revenue operations like we do through that. They would want one, it has to be larger partner to be able to oversee that across the board, so that even from a partner perspective, their processes are standardized in their portfolio. That's what I was at. Does that make a little more sense?
Well, I think there's that element, which is like almost like a shared services model where you have hey, we have whether it's a partner or what you're describing is we have acquired or invested in a HubSpot shop that we can then create standardization within the whole portfolio. Yes, that exists, but I think that exists regardless. I think your question you originally asking is why is private equity interested? And private equity wants to acquire solutions partners, and they want to build with, because as HubSpot moves up market to be the CRM platform scaling companies, they need partners that can grow. And so private equity wants to inject cash into these companies to grow with them because they see that as opportunity.
Yes, I may found mayoral marketing and just hop on that train and see if somebody will invest in me for next week.
I'll invest in you.
Thanks. That brings us, that's a good segue to you. So bottom line up front, BLU, you made a very impactful contribution to this framework with that one letter. What's Rob thinking about? So from the perspective of not the CEO, but me, I had two topics. One was funny, one was serious. Which one do you want? I'll give you the bluff.
Let's go funny. We need to get some levity into the conversation.
The bluff is that the Knicks don't have enough players left on their bench healthy to even run out in Indiana. And I'm really concerned that they're going to blow a 2-0 series lead and not make it to the conference finals. Your thoughts?
I didn't even know they were still in the playoffs. So they're playing who? The Pacers?
The Pacers, yep.
I didn't even know the Pacers were in the playoffs. So I don't know if I have a very good I think they're going to. What's the right word? It's going to be a sweep, Rob. Sweep by the Knicks.
Well, considering they only have probably 7 people in the rotation, Tibbs is famous for not playing many people. So you have 15 players on an NBA roster, typically 8 to 9, maybe 10 of them will see game time. All their people are injured, and he runs smaller rotations anyway. So, I mean, shout out to Tibbs for making it this far, but Brunson is his foot hurts. We're not sure what's going to happen. They're
How's
not doing
how's
they're
your boy
not doing the
LeBron
thing
James
that we
doing?
pride ourselves on, which is taking care of our people. They're running these people 48 minutes a game, and I mean it's been wild. So interested to see what happens there.
You didn't answer my question. How's LeBron James doing?
Uh, you don't have to be involved in this podcast anymore. So to the audience, I'm a huge LeBron fan. I have until my cat or my son stole it. I have like a mini LeBron on this desk most of the time. It's not here, symbolic of him being ousted in a gentleman's sweep from the first round of the playoffs by the defending champion Nuggets. It was a sad day. I mean, we're watching the greatest player ever take his last couple.
That's
I
one
think his last
perspective.
couple games.
There's also a perspective he's a coach killer, right? Isn't that one of the other concepts about LeBron?
Let's get back to business because this is not going well. I will defend LeBron. LeBron, if you hear this ever, I'm your biggest fan in Mississippi. I can guarantee that. Topic F. So Bluff is F is future in this element. I want you to give me a bluff or a prediction or a forecast to start off, and I want you to explain how it's going to move in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. So from what we talked about earlier, let's just use um, the partner acquisition talk track from LinkedIn and from HubSearch. What do you think that's going to look like in 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months?
I will answer that, but I'll take a different direction too. Look, the consolidation is already happening, so I think it's just only going to accelerate. So there will be more going on in the next 12 months. I mean, it's to me that's not as interesting as where I want to go with the question, which is no offense, it is more about
You are the CEO. You can go wherever you want.
I think we've talked about that point a lot. I think it's where is HubSpot going as a product, and I think that's where it gets interesting. Well, lots of things are interesting, but if you look at, we talked a little bit earlier, we want to have solutions that serve the CRO from lead to cash, and HubSpot's been well known for the front office. And you'll hear Yami talk a lot about the front office, meaning sales and marketing, but there's a lot of effort to serve the back office as well, and that gets into the customer. And so, how do we delight the customer from the closed one to ongoing? And so that's Service Hub, Commerce Hub, and getting into really what we would call like the financial operations. So how do you monitor retention? And so to answer your question, I think there's a lot going on from a billing and our ERP side that partners need to have expertise on. And so that's something that I'm thinking a lot about as relates to what do we continue to build. So it doesn't mean that marketing or sales is obsolete, but you need to make sure you have a solution that supports some of those technical elements and how do you serve the CS team. So that is an area that I'm very interested in, and I think that HubSpot will continue to build because they've been candidly deficient on the back office side, and they know they need to beef that up.
That is a lot of what they're doing from the back of house or back end, as you said, but they're also, I mean, maybe pulling this number out of thin air. I think that they're at the partner kickoff day last year, it was announced where their goal for TAM in 2026 or 7 is $26 billion increase, I think, to get it to 76 billion. So with that, they are also, speaking of positive, constructive criticism, they're addressing things in niches or industries or verticals where they haven't been as prevalent, like healthcare and like anything that requires more focus on infosec, PII, HIPAA, all of that stuff. Do you see that also as a kind of the T model? Like they want to be able to go deeper with the products that they offer through their platform, but also wider as far as who they're attracting as prospects or potential customers?
I think yes and no. I think they will. I think there's more of a concerted effort around breadth, not depth. What I mean by that is that they can serve industries, and so you mentioned healthcare, life sciences, like HIPAA. There's like barriers to entry, and I think they will make sure that they have those things done. Now, when it gets done, who really knows? But those things will get addressed. But they are and this is if there are any partners listening, I mean, the way that you will win the future of HubSpot is you need to have a point of view and you need to have a solution, and that could be industry specific. So as you already mentioned, like healthcare, or you need to have a solution that you can take to market. That could be, hey, like we are HubSpot Plus, meaning we do HubSpot Plus NetSuite as an example, or we do HubSpot Plus Panadoc or Deal Hub for CLM, or we do HubSpot Plus Gong on conversational intelligence. You need to have some type of solution that kind of the market's looking for, like the prospects, but also the HubSpot reps are, because they're going to have they being HubSpot will have a solution, but it's gonna be more vanilla, and so they need partners that have the expertise to customize it to serve the needs of more complex use cases up market for industries.
That's so far over my head that maybe the F should be fun and we just ended on a happy note. That's more depressing and I need to go learn more things. So in closing, that was the Bluff episode 1, first one ever. Brendan, thanks for joining, although you were a little bit late. Want to close out or test closing the show out with a call up. So RP, we call up, not out. My call up today goes to everyone in outbound across the world that is using these AI programs. I talked to one the other day. It was wildly convincing that it was a human until I said something stupid that they could not literally compute. Fast forward, 45 minutes later, I'm still seeing what I can get away with, but the programs need to not exist or be way better. It was wild. It's like a deep fake of a voice thing that wasn't very good.
That's funny. We actually didn't even get into AI on our Bluff this week, or maybe that's my fault but AI is definitely something to monitor as a trend and what's happening. But we can do that on a future episode.
That'll be episode 2, Bluff, AI, focus. Who's your call up for the week? It could be a person, concept, industry, anything.
I'm going to call it some of our peers. I don't know if that's a fair thing to do, but should I call up our peers? I don't know if that's a good.
I would call up Vinny Kennedy for the 1-day close, or I don't know if we can say any of that on air. You're here, so you can tell me if we can say it or not, but shout out Vinny.
Shout out to Vinny. He closed 2 deals actually today, which is always a fun way to end the week. And then Pat actually closed a deal on his birthday, which is pretty sweet.
Oh, yeah, shout out Pat. It is his birthday today. Mr. Pat Opkins, real salesman of genius.
And then we've got 2 folks. I was looking at Josh and Morgan on their 90-day celebration from a milestone perspective. So graduating and adding value to partners. So it's always fun for me to see what's going on with our people. I thank you, Rob, for holding me accountable, and sorry for being late. And
I was going to call you up, but you're here, so.
but I showed up 20 minutes late, so that ended my call up moment. You came in frustrated. I apologize. That's fine. You should be frustrated. That's my fault.
It's all right. There's still tornado damage we're dealing with and sirens that were going off. So that was episode 1 of the Bluff. Brendan, thanks for being here. We'll see you again on time next week. Audience, stay awesome. Keep doing it big.
See y'all.